Welcome.
Important message from the colony.
Important message from the two rats in a movie theater.
Yeah.
If you're seeing this video, it's because you're on our main channel page, which means we've obviously created something that you're interested in seeing. Maybe you should hit that like and subscribe button. maybe you should leave a comment down below.
Oh god.
Telling us what movies you want us to cover.
We'll do that if you comment.
You know, if a single
Engagement
person
bait.
comments and says they want us to cover a movie, we will 100% cover it
Nobody will comment
at this
though,
point in the
because we have
game.
movies.
Well-
All right, here's the deal. We have made some videos. We have made some videos criticizing some things that have come out recently, some things that have come out a long time ago, some things that some aren't criticism, some are praise. But we're here basically to set the record straight.
We're here to explain ourselves. Why are we doing this?
So now that we have a little bit of a groundwork set for if you want to go watch a movie, we got to talk about why are we doing this?
Yeah, that's a great question, man. Why are we doing it? We'll give a little bit of background at first, right? On YouTube critique, there are almost two factions, and this is weird because you don't see this in like professional critique. This isn't really a thing, but on YouTube, there's perspectives, right? And one perspective is the most important thing about the art is how it makes you feel, and the other perspective is something more like the most important thing about art is whether or not it makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, if you've seen any of our content, you'd see that quite a lot of it does revolve around whether the plot of this movie makes any sense, whether, you know, the events lead naturally to one another.
Yes.
And that is important. And obviously, we are heavily inspired by the does the movie make sense camp. But we want to take it a bit deeper, right? Because we understand there are a lot of people who are like, no, it doesn't matter. The emotions matter.
Yeah.
And
So
we want to explain
we're
our
here
perspective.
to state our case for number one, why are we criticizing something? Why are we criticizing art? Art's subjective is what a lot of people say. So we're gonna try and explain why are we criticizing art, and then we're gonna kind of give our perspectives, I guess, on what makes art good, I guess, and how we rank things. We're gonna explain it a little bit for everybody. It'll be a short video that if you are one of the 7 subscribers and you actually watch the videos, you'll be confused why this video is so short. But we're trying to, keep it short and simple so the people can understand what are we doing.
And if you're interested in hearing what we're doing, why we're doing it, and why we hold to the perspectives we do, maybe you'll be more interested in seeing some of our other videos instead of like being like, oh, this is part of that other dirty, nasty group.
All of you should go watch the one video where we make fun of people who like backrooms, because that's our greatest video and nobody watched it.
Hey, we're not making fun of people who like backrooms. More so, we're defending ourselves from people who like backrooms,
making fun of
who
us.
say that if you don't like that movie, you're stupid. All right.
Okay. Anyway,
so let's start with what does it mean for a piece of particularly specifically storytelling to have objectively good or bad qualities? How can something like that be objectively measurable when ultimately it's about an individual's experience?
Yeah, you might be thinking, I've seen a lot of people on the internet, you talk about objective qualities of art, and I had a guy comment on something I said on Instagram. He said, the word objective should never, ever, ever be used when talking about art. And that's a very common take, but here's the problem. Art can have subjective and objective qualities at the same time. We say a lot. It really doesn't matter what we criticize about the movie. What matters on a larger scale is, did you enjoy the movie or not? If you enjoyed the movie, great, you can enjoy the movie. But people tend to get their panties up in a bunch when you say a movie's bad if they enjoyed it, right? Look at Avatar. Everybody defends Avatar. Avatar's a terrible movie. Interstellar. Everybody loves Interstellar, but Interstellar is a terrible movie.
Yeah. So it all kind of boils down to this, right? Humans are narrative creatures. We interpret ideas through narratives. If a story is an argument or really an analogy for some kind of idea you're trying to get across, then the analogy needs to work. If the analogy you use to support your argument is broken, then people will point that out and your argument will fall flat.
Yeah.
So the reason why I would consider it to be very important that stories make sense, they're internally consistent, they're not too contrived, and they don't contradict themselves, is because that's what you need to make a functioning analogy and convince somebody of an idea or perspective.
Uh-huh.
So if you take a movie like Uncut Gems, the point of the movie is to convince you. If you haven't seen Uncut Gems, go watch it. Please don't let me spoil it for you. But the point of the movie is that if you allow your vice to lead your life and you chase it endlessly, you will end up alienating yourself from everybody around you and destroying yourself, right? And every single step or part throughout that movie reinforces that objective more and more and more and more and more again, up until the very conclusion. But if things had gone differently in the movie, and the movie had inadvertently persuaded us that somehow the vice was a good thing because a plot element was constructed poorly, that could lead to a misinterpretation, the theme is weakened, right?
Yeah.
The Last Jedi is a movie that wants to argue the character of Poe Dameron is like reckless and impulsive, and that's going to get everybody killed, and he needs to place more trust in his leadership.
Yeah.
But every single thing that Poe does in that movie, if you actually break down his entire plot, is exactly what any rational person would do in his shoes, because everybody else who's supposed to be the people that he's trusting are actually behaving
very irrationally.
Super irrationally. So the movie ends up sabotaging its own goal.
Yeah. Really quickly, we're trying to cram as much information into this so, people can get an understanding of what we're doing. So I'm going to go over, 3 things that people might say to us saying stuff like this. The first thing is that when you criticize a movie, a lot of times people will say something like, well, it's suspension of disbelief. It's a movie that has dragons I can put aside. So, for example, I was talking about Game of Thrones episode, The Battle of the Bastards. And there's a lot of problems with that episode, even though it is it's one of the most loved episodes of Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I completely understand why it's so loved.
Yeah.
I liked it the first time I watched it.
But there are so many problems of it. This is not the biggest problem, but one problem I was talking with someone, I was like, this is a show in the world where our hero, it's not like Lord of the Rings where your heroes are slaying armies of monsters. That works in a world like Lord of the Rings because your heroes are basically gods. They're slaying armies by themselves.
They're mythical heroes, as opposed to Game of Thrones, which wants you to think that they are normal people. They're normal people.
They are bound by the same limits that we are. Basically, you might win a sword fight, but as soon as there's 2 guys involved, it's probably over for you. Yeah,
unless you're super skilled, and then it does all the work to justify.
And in the episode Battle of the Bastards, Jon Snow kind of takes on an army. He does something that we don't see in Game of Thrones at all. Something that never happens, and he does it. This is obviously not the biggest problem with that episode, but that was the problem I was talking about, because that was the one that I kind of understand.
He gets flurries of arrows dropped on him over and over again, and he just kind of leans over and is somehow fine.
And the person responded to this criticism saying, well, this is a show with dragons and magic. I can suspend some disbelief and believe that would happen. And that's a silly thing to say, because I've already suspended disbelief to watch this show because I like seasons 1 through 4.
The show up to that point has been desperately trying to convince us that these are not mythical archetypes. Yeah. These are people who will be undone. The Red Wedding happens in this show. Yeah. The whole point of that is
the Red Wedding.
The main characters definitely don't have plot armor.
No one has plot armor. Yeah.
And then the later seasons give everybody plot armor, and that subverts all the ideas that Game of Thrones is trying to get across.
Yeah. Another popular thing that you hear people say when you critique The Rise of Skywalker or The Last Jedi. It's a kids' movie with space wizards. It doesn't need to be good. It's for kids. You're an adult. Why are you criticizing a children's movie? This is an infuriating thing to say to someone who is making good points, and it is a last resort of someone losing an argument, usually 9 times out of 10, it doesn't matter if it's a kids' movie. There are plenty of kids' movies that are phenomenal movies.
You can enjoy them as an adult.
Just because a movie is for a younger audience, just because a movie's for a younger audience doesn't give you an excuse to tell a bad story. Most children's stories, I wouldn't say most children's stories, but all of the children's stories that we see turned into movies, Snow White, Cinderella, all of those are based off of folklore that's a good story that survived the ages, interpreted differently.
Yeah,
of
why
course. They
why
aren't
would
the
we
same.
say let's give our children bad stories because
Yeah.
it doesn't matter?
Let's-
Let's give them good stories.
Let's give our children slop, is basically what you're saying. That's a bad world that I don't want to live in, where children are fed slop simply because they're younger than us. What a terrible thing to say. And number 3, gosh, I've lost my train of thought slightly. What was number 3?
Probably enjoyment is more important than whether something holds up.
Oh no, I know what it is.
What is it?
This was a big argument I got into with my former employer, where everyone was basically telling me that the story of a movie, the plot of the movie, and the world building and the characters and the arcs, they are not as important as the visuals of a movie, because a movie is a visual medium. So while the plot may be important, it is not more important than stuff like quality of acting, quality of film, visual effects. This is probably the most infuriating thing I've ever been told.
Yeah, because a movie is a visual medium
of storytelling.
of a story, right? Like the visuals in a movie are more important than the visuals in a book.
Yes,
because
but that's what
obviously.
they literally told me. If I wanted a good story, I'd read a book. I watch a movie for the visuals, and it's like, okay, you're.
So what, do they just sit in the theater and look at the lights and don't listen to anything the characters are saying, or what? Right?
And also, this creates a huge
But I don't
problem.
think people really say that. I think this is just like kind of a random take that.
I was told it by literally like 5 people at once. They were all yelling at me, telling me
It's
this.
because they were all bandwagoning with each other. I
Yeah.
guarantee it.
But the biggest problem with this, like all that other stuff aside, guess what happens when you say the most important part of the visual medium is the visuals? It automatically makes it so no old movie can ever be better than a newer movie, because newer movies have better technology and therefore always have better visuals. It basically means that, The Rise of Skywalker, one of the worst movies ever made, is automatically better than, say, Shawshank Redemption, because the visuals in Rise of Skywalker are much better than At least
Shawshank they're
Redemption.
much cooler.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is the whole point of this channel. We're trying to examine these films not just as whether they titillated us, whether they scared us, whether they excited us, but whether they successfully communicate their message through a good, effective story. And if you're interested in that kind of thing, I hope you'll join us.
Yeah.
And this video is about the length we want it to be. A little bit rambly, but I think you can maybe decipher it. All right, this is our style. This is what we do. We sit down here and we free flow. We're not doing super scripted
We're not
stuff.
scripting stuff. We're not doing more than one take. We're not cutting stuff. That's boring. We do it raw. We go in raw.
Exactly. Because part of the journey isn't just what is our conclusion, but how did we get there, right?
Yeah.
Some movies will already come in with a very good idea. The movie we just reviewed, which is a video that will be live on our channel, I'm not going to tell you which one it is though. We kind of figured out our perspective on it while we were talking about it.
We went into it not necessarily knowing, and through talking about it with each other, we learned.
So if you're into that, hey, click one of the videos down below. Click that hype button.
I don't think you can click the hype button because we have 7 subscribers.
Don't skip the ads and
watch this, please.
And if you're looking for someone to sponsor, if you happen to be the executive of the company, hey,
you're the worst person ever. I hate
give us money.
End the recording.
All right.